identified so many problems, but they have solution already.
Okay.
And then it's not an entrepreneurship, right? So that we should find a problem most of them are facing, and then we should find a solution for that. But in other areas, for that problem, solution has been already found. Then it's not a problem. We should adopt it.
No, you did not understand what they said clearly. That's what I would say. Somewhere between 75 to 90% of the startups that exist in India are copies. If you look at Ola, it's a copy of Uber. If you look at Swiggy, it's a copy of a food delivery thing that happened earlier. Flipkart, it came out of Amazon and started Flipkart. It's no longer a startup, I guess, but Flipkart. And again, I am saying about 75 to 90%. I don't have the accurate numbers, but almost everything is a copy. Okay? So copying in this one case, not in your exams, copying in this one case is okay, but copying by itself is not going to help you succeed exactly as your exams. You copying from your neighbor is not a good idea because your neighbor probably knows less than you. You think that they know something because they're writing and you're copying, and it turns out that they don't know enough and you actually end up not doing well. So whenever they copied something from some other place to India, they adapted to the Indian conditions, and that's how they made it work. There are some advantages that we have and a lot of disadvantages that we have, and you have to overcome all of those disadvantages while taking advantage of whatever things that are available to you, advantages that are there for you. For example, Zepto and Blinkit and Instamart, in my view, would be a total failure anywhere outside of South Asia. Indian subcontinent, definitely, but most likely in other places outside of this. Why am I saying that? Why will this not work outside of India? Zepto, Blinkit, well, Indian subcontinent. It's a guess. I'm asking you to guess. I don't expect you to think the way that I am thinking. You know exactly what's going on in my head. Not really. Not really. You used the right word, but you came over it from a different angle. That angle is incorrect. That's what he said. More consumers. And I'm saying more consumers is not the reason why. Why do you think? By the way, this is not a classroom. I don't know if Kiran and Deepak told you, but so far, in the 3 sessions that you had, any wrong answer that you gave will not result in punishment, will not result in you standing on the table or the chairs. Right? It will not result in negative marking. Nothing like that. So, as Kiran told you on day 1, one of the things about an entrepreneur is you should be willing to take risks. And the fundamental risk over here, the basic risk, I could be wrong if I give an answer. If you're not willing to take that risk, how do you expect to become startup founders and entrepreneurs and take big risks with big money? So the answer has to do with population, but not from a consumer side. So what could it be? A hint for you. For Blinkit, Instamart, Zepto, these things, right? What do they work? Deliver what? I mean, even Amazon and others deliver in a short time. Who does that? So, why would it work here and why would it not work there? She said delivery boys. To a large extent, it doesn't count if you said it. Unless you say it to me, you talking among yourself, see, I told the answer.
Make it paid very less.
Exactly. Cheap labor is available in India that is not available anywhere else. For you to be able to deliver something, so quickly, risking a lot of things. Of course, other factors also. Going on the wrong side of the road, speeding, not wearing helmets, all kinds of things like that. But, you would have to pay a lot of money to the person that you're delivering. And even there, you would also have to pay a lot of benefits. Biggest one happens to be insurance. And most of these companies may not be. I don't know. So, most of these companies, from what I've heard, do not offer those benefits or services because, or do not offer those benefits like insurance, for example, medical insurance, because they don't count those delivery agents. They don't even call them employees. They don't count them as employees. They count them as contractors or hired help or whatever, temporary. Because they're not my employee, under the definition of Indian laws and everything, I don't have to give them the benefits of leave, health insurance and other coverage. As a matter of fact, we've heard stories where somebody had to take off because his wife was not well for a month. And then he got into an accident. And because he was away for a month, whatever earlier experience that he had did not count. And therefore, he was ineligible for accident insurance. And he had to pay for himself. So, some things work in India based on how you can manipulate the situation. Okay? But let's not talk about the manipulation part. Coming back to your idea of, hey, I already have something, but it's already existing. That is not a good answer. That is not what Kiran and Deepak could have told you. They are not saying that, hey, Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket, what else? Some of these online, Myntra, all of these existed before, right? So you could, e-commerce basically existed before. So if the founders of Zepto and Blinkit said e-commerce already exists, I'm not going to do anything in that, you would not have Zepto and Blinkit with such high valuations right now. Moral of the story, it might exist, but your job, your challenge is, can you find out a more innovative way of delivering or doing that product or service in a faster, cheaper, better way. And so, for you to say something exists, don't go with that. We would never say, hey, that already exists, so don't do it. If we said that, that would be because you're doing exactly what already exists. If you tell me now that I'm going to do something that is exactly that, but I'm going to do it in a different way, then we would never tell you don't do it. We would probably ask you a few more questions to strengthen your idea, but we would not discourage you from it saying that that already exists. Most of the times when we say that already exists, when somebody comes to us and we are asked to mentor, and they come to us and say, I want to do this, that already exists. Somebody came yesterday and said, I want to do something about face creams. I could have easily told that person, it already exists. I didn't, because I don't know what that person is trying to do in terms of what they are looking at. What kind of face cream, what kind of formula, how is it different from everybody else? Is there some advantage that that person is getting by having it in a particular area? I have no idea about all of those, so I will not. I did not say no. Don't do it because it already exists. Otherwise, there are thousands of face creams that are available across the globe. So, coming back to my question, do you have an area that you are thinking of? Because you said you don't have any problem that you are aware of, that you finally found out. Do you have an area that you're thinking of? Okay. Now I see the challenges that Deepak and Kiran are telling me. You went through an exercise of identifying and listing a bunch of problems, right? You went through the ideation exercise. Lots of ideas that you created. So none of those ideas that you created are appealing to you. No. Why did you work on that idea? Why did you come up with a different?
Always
How do you know?
as for my
Yeah, how do you know?
for me,
Yeah. For you and you. You're saying instantly coming up with a problem is not up to the mark. But how do you know that the problem and the solution is not a problem, is not up to the mark?
social problems, like these and we use as examples. And things is a lot of some
Yeah, if you're not excited about it, that's a different thing. But he said, there are social problems, and those cannot be enterprises, startups.
I am not excited about they might be, but I am not excited.
The first one that you said is they can't be converted.
They can be.
For example, how can you convert it?
If the farmers are seeing as quality sell their products, with things, foods, while using an app, they use those creative ones, which they face a major problem right now. But I think I'm not excited about it. But if we look at it, it has a problem. We can do it much better way and much proper with proper technology. We can do it much greater in terms of as an idea we can build it from scratch and we can build it something very new. But is it so? Is it profitable? Is it question?
Yeah, so there are at least 2 points that I want to discuss over here based on what you said. The first thing is, can I take a social problem and make it profitable? One of the things that we have is that we don't have access to healthcare which is affordable in most cases. And where it's affordable, people don't want to take it because they think that if it's free, then it's not good care, and also maybe the quality of the care is not good, or whatever it is. And also, out of that, one particular problem is when you need to go to the hospital in an emergency, you don't have an ambulance that comes on time. It's a social problem. Now, hospitals, ambulances, government hospitals, and having ambulances come to a victim or a patient to take the patient, stabilize and safely take the patient to a hospital so that treatment can be given is a social problem. But one of the startups, I don't know which one, is doing the 10-minute or 15-minute ambulance as a service. Right now, Blinkit is not making money; it's losing money. But they figured out that they can actually make it something that they can make money from. So, one lesson that I want you to take from there is don't put artificial barriers and walls, obstacles in front of you that don't exist. Your job is to actually get rid of the obstacles, not think of them and say, okay, this is what it is. The second one that I want to mention based on what he had said happens to be that almost every one of you jumps to technology. And anytime a problem is given, almost every one of you comes and says, I will build an app for it. I will build an app for it, maybe I'll build a website for it, web application for it, but you're always thinking about apps as the golden solution for everything. By the way, technology, other technologies also that you go to, but app is the easiest one to explain. Right? So, for example, you talked about the idea of art and being able to get good prices for artisans, have a market for them, and so on. One thing that everybody would immediately jump to would be, let me create an e-commerce website, or let me create an app for it. Did you hear about, did anybody, Kiran, Deepak, did they talk to you about apps at all? Okay. Because I don't want to repeat what they said. What are the maximum number of apps that you have on your phone? Anybody have more than 50 apps on their phone? Raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, 2 people. Anybody have more than 30? Okay, you have 30. Anybody have less than 20? Okay. So, the 30 to over 50 apps that people have, how often do you open all of those 30 apps or 50 apps? Once a week? Once a day? Once a week? Once a month? So, given that everybody is nodding their head and saying, not even once a week, but we take once a week as a option for how many of you, how many apps do you use once a week? At least once a week. The approximate number, I'm not going to test, I'm not going to check your phones. How many apps do you use in a week?
5 or 6.
Okay. Others? Others? 4 to 5. Vijita sir.
5 to 6, sir.
Now like Vijita sir.
Sir, no,
More
sir.
than- Okay, so the next question, the follow-up question. How many apps are there in the Play Store and the App Store? I know, how many? You know, thousands, 10,000, lakhs, tens of lakhs, crore. So out of a crore apps that are available, all of you have, with the exception of a couple of people who have more than 50, all of you have 30 or less apps. But even take the 50 apps that are there, 50 plus apps. Out of that, how many are you using on a regular basis, weekly? You are using them, maybe 4 or 5 of them. Let's count, take it as 10. Okay? Now, you install an app, you create an app, and say I'm going to do an e-commerce, I'm going to do an app for artisans. Out of the crore apps that are available, what are the chances that somebody is going to find your app? Find it first of all, not even install it. What are the chances that they're actually installed? And what are the chances that once they install it, they'll open it at least once a week? They're promoting. I think all the other app creators are not promoting. Right? So unless you have an absolutely critical number of people that you know that these people will install my app if I create it and if I develop it, and they will use it more than once a week. Right? Creating an app is probably one of the biggest mistakes that you can make in terms of your solution, in terms of your startup. We have a startup that we are mentoring and we invested in called Interview. We never created an app for it. It's been around for now close to 10 years. We never created an app for it. There were a few times that somebody said we would like to have an app, but we realized that we don't want to do an app. One of the reasons for doing that or not doing that is exactly this, that what are the chances that people are going to use it. Now interview body is all about practice interviews before you go for a real interview, mock interviews. So how many times are you going to go for a real interview? You'll go for an interview, you'll go for multiple interviews until you get a job, but once you get a job, you're not going to go for another interview for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So the app is just going to sit on your phone, you're probably going to delete it. One. Second, all of you who've been on video calls, if your boyfriend, girlfriend, it's different, but otherwise if you're going on video calls, you know how horrible it is with the not able to see the face and things moving around and all of that. In an interview practice where everything needs to be formal and we want you to do the best, we can't have you walking around and talking with all kinds of noises and everywhere on the road. We need you to be sitting in one place, with your laptop, with the camera facing you, with the mic, audible, your speaker audible, all of those things, and a stable internet connection. And so, therefore, no app. So, the second one that I want to mention, don't jump at technology without doing anything further. I have a challenge because I have to do this. But before I do this, without you having problems, we are not really going to go too far. This is just going to become a sessions where you come sit in a classroom like you do everywhere else in your colleges, take notes and go away, and that's not what we want to do over here. So one of the things that I would strongly encourage you to do is, by tonight, make sure that you have one problem that you have identified and start talking to people, doing the customer interviews to see if that is a real problem or not for them. That was supposed to have been done on day 1. Now since this is day 4, we are maybe the last Thursday. We have to make you do that because otherwise you are going to end up having to go through these sessions where every session there are going to be fewer and fewer people. Because you're going to find this as just another theory session, and that doesn't help anyone. And that was not our intention. So, having said that, before I go any further, quickly, where are you from and what are you currently doing?
I'm Spandana sir, completed my first year in Affairs and Communication Engineering.
Spandana?
I have Yamuna sir.
Yamuna sir.
I have completed, I'm doing my first year in BBA in English Mathematics.
Where is that?
Here is the issue.
Where is that? Don't say in your English Mathematics.
No.
Okay.
Sir, myself is Jan. I'm from Kakinada and I have completed my BSc Geology in Geetanjali College, which is affiliated college. It's in administration.
What's your name?
Jan.
Jayan.
Hello sir, my name is Kushwander. I am currently working in the first year of engineering technology.
Where? No. Engineering college. First year. I thought you finished your first year. You're coming to your second year. We are going to join as a fresh graduate or fresh student. How did that happen? I thought you needed to go through NSS with them.
Actually, I completed my first semester.
Oh, you finished your first semester.
Myself is that I'm doing chartered accountant in civil engineering college.
Okay. Okay.
My name is Sia and I'm currently in my final year of BTech. I'm from Andhra University,
Which branch?
CSE.
Okay. So you know some of these guys? Just now? You don't know her? Okay. She's senior.
The parents.
He said final year.
Finally.
Rudra. Mona. That's again.
Sir, myself, Mukesh Krishnan. I'm currently a final student in BTech in Andhra University at GST department.
Okay. You. Pujita sir, I know her.
I'm Bhavna. I'm pursuing a BBA in Cruise Culinary Academy.
Where is
Andhra University.
Huh?
Cruise
You're doing a BBA in
in Cruise Culinary Academy. Sir, it's a wing of presidency college which is affiliated to Andhra University.
Okay, but she's saying she is an undergraduate. Asking on her affiliate. Affiliate.
So myself, Nanda, currently pursuing BCom degree in Cruise Culinary Academy, which was located in Akepal. It was also affiliated by Andhra University.
I'm currently pursuing BBA first year in Cruise Culinary Academy.
All three of you from same place. Oh, the entire row. Okay. So Now you can stop explaining that part because I understand, but I don't understand. BCom and culinary academy. So,
Actually, it's a hotel management college which is also offering BBA and BCom.
and so you're taking BBA and BCom. Why? I mean, are you interested in food and other things in it by any chance, or it's just a coincidence?
Coincidence.
My name is Sheikh and pursuing degree.
I'm from BCom.
Okay.
Sir, myself, I'm studying BBA.
You see, okay. Since pretty much everybody is a student, let me ask you this question. Before you start anything, for example, going on a vacation, going for a picnic, an exam, taking joining a particular program, degree program of any sort, where should you start? What is the first thing that you should do? Before you start anything, for example, going on a vacation, going to a picnic, going to a movie, preparing for an exam, joining a particular college or course, what should you do? Okay.
First, you have to fix all the problems.
Very good. No, they gave the right answer. You want to say it a little louder? Why? Did you hear what she said? They can't hear it.
Proper planning is important.
Did you hear what she said?
Proper planning is important.
What?
Proper planning is important.
Okay. So, one of the first things that you need to do before you get started with something, as simple as going to a movie and as important and as critical as planning for your approaching a particular, choosing a career, is that you need to have a plan. Because for some of you, the movie might be more critical than a career, but we take it as you understood my point. Because if you don't have a plan, you are basically going to be in a very difficult situation. And that is why there is a quotation of sorts. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Right now, 70 to 80% of you are in that category. Without knowing anything about you other than seeing you for the past half an hour, I am telling you this because you are going through your careers without any plan in place. And I don't blame you for it, by the way. I'm just making a statement of fact. And I could be wrong. Maybe 50% of you are ready and only 50% are not, already have a plan. But the reason why I don't blame you is because you did not receive any kind of proper guidance on what path to take. And therefore your choices have been based on what your friends are taking or what your parents are suggesting or what society wants you to do rather than what you are interested, capable, passionate, or willing to do. And that is one of the single biggest reasons why at the end of your degree, whether it's an undergraduate degree or postgraduate degree, you don't have a job in place. And you're struggling to find a job. And therefore, every single one of you is going to do one of two things. You're either going to go for an MCom or an MBA, MCom or MBA, or you're going to go for an MTech or ME or higher education, right? Or an MBA again, even from the engineering side. And somehow you believe that, oh, if I do this, I will, my job prospects will improve. Again, you're going through things without a plan and without any other options that you have explored. And therefore, you're going to find out after you finish 2 years of your MBA or 2 years of your MTech, chances are higher that you're probably going to do something serious. MBA, chances are very high that you're going to play around a lot because all you're doing is doing a bunch of activities in college, this fest and that fest and so on. And so you finish that and then you're an MBA, but you don't even know what MBA stands for. By the way, I'm not making some random statement. Go to somebody who's finished an MBA, anybody in the last 5 to 7 years, who doesn't have a job especially, and ask them what MBA stands for. Ask them to give you the spelling of MBA, not the letters, the full form of MBA. I would be shocked if more than 10% give you the right answer. That is where things are at. And this is not a lecture about you and your career. This is about planning. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because I'm connecting this with the topic that you are all here, the program that we are doing, Ignite. Ignite is a program that is meant to take you from no ideas or some idea to a validated idea. Because once you have a validated idea with you, you're going to take that validated idea, you're going to join another program, any other place, or right here called Program-1, where it will get converted into a minimum viable product, a prototype. From there, you can join a hub or any other incubation centers where you convert that into a startup that is revenue generating. And from there, you start making money through your company. You go into an accelerator program where they make you scale up so that you go from 10 customers, 100 customers, 1,000 customers to 1 lakh, 20 lakhs and 2 crore customers. So that's the scale up program. So this is the first step that you're at. And for anybody to be able to go through a startup or entrepreneurship, one of the first things that you're asked to do, any business by the way, not just something related to startups, the first thing that you're asked to do is, do you have a business plan? Again, because if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And by the way, for those of you who are weak at heart, this might be something that might help you decide one way or the other, but 90% of the startups fail. So the chances of you succeeding is only 10%. And this is not like those exams, NEET and whatever exams where you can keep writing the exams and so on. In that, expectation is I'll qualify in UPSC, become a collector or something, an IAS officer, and then the rest of my life I can live like a king or a queen. This is different. Okay? And if you are weak at heart, given that only 10% of startups succeed, you are not going to, you are most likely going to be in that category of 90%. This is not to discourage you. This is to state a fact. Many reasons for that failure. There are many reasons for that failure. And one of those reasons happened to be that those startups did not have a plan. That 90% failure is because those startups did not have a plan. As a matter of fact, one of the big things happens to be that a lot of startups don't even have a validated idea. They saw something nice, they see something bright, and say, okay, I've got this brilliant idea, I'm going to do this. And one of the challenges that we have with this kind of with engineering students happens to be, or engineers, by the way, we build solutions without talking to customers and asking them, do you really need the solution? Yes, sir. Our first thing is, I'm an engineer, there is a problem, I'll solve it, I build a solution, here's the solution. Without telling them, without finding out, do they really want that solution? What is it that they're looking for? Is it really the correct problem that I'm solving? So, how many of you have a career goal? How many of you have a career goal? Okay. So, since only the two of you raised your hands, what is your career goal?
So like robotics masters.
Okay, that's not a career goal, man. You're just doing the next step in your studies.
रोबोटिक कंपनी में ज्वाइन हो, NVIDIA रोबोटिक कंपनी में ज्वाइन हो.
Okay.
To start a product companies that can rival international companies.
Okay. It's not important to put what their goals are. I mean, for the session, for the class. It is important for them, it's important for you. But you need to also understand something. If you don't have a goal, anywhere you go, you are heading towards your goal. You can wander aimlessly and you are heading towards the goal. By the way, I forgot to add one more thing to the options that you have after you finish your degree. After you finish your degree, I told you, higher studies, in case you don't get a job, the chances are high that some of you may not get a job. But the third option is, especially for the girls, you know what your option is if you finish your degree and don't have a job and not go and study anywhere else. Right? So, some idiots that you end up having to do. So, just as any business needs to have a business plan, just as any individual that you're doing, all of you individuals, you need to first of all have a goal. Better go and have that goal in mind before you do anything else. Because going ahead in life without a goal in mind is not such a great idea unless you are satisfied with life as it is, and you're happy that fine, this is how I am and life will go on like this and it's okay for me to be this way. and it's okay for me to rely on the support of my parents to take care of me for the next 10 years or 20 years or whatever. If you don't, and that's not okay, one of the first things is that you need to have immediately get started with having a goal. So, of course, I'm sure we'll go to LLMs and ask for what is my goal, and they will give you some goals, but work on it quickly, not quickly, work on it urgently. Once you have that goal in a startup, you have a goal, you want to get started with something, you need to have a business plan. And usually business plans used to be 100 pages, 60 pages, 80 pages long, because you had a lot of detail, introduction, executive summary, introduction, what is your company about, what is the problem that product or service that you're offering, what are the financials and projections, what are the, what's the marketing strategy, how do you plan to operate, where do you plan to operate, how many people you want to have, what kind of machinery or what kind of office equipment tools that you will have, what kind of warehousing will you have, all kinds of things that you're going to have. As you start putting everything together, you're going to have something which can be 50, 60, 100 pages long. And the challenge with the business plan is that your business plan this year cannot be the same business plan next year. Because over that year, so many things around you change that you have to adjust to that new reality. You're buying something from China and you're buying something from Nepal and you're bringing them over here. And you're buying something from, let's say, Dubai. And you're bringing them here and you're assembling them and you're providing that as a product to somebody. What used to cost 60 rupees and later 83 rupees is now 97 rupees. Because the dollar rate has increased, the rupee has fallen and the dollar rate has increased. So when I'm buying something and now it's going to cost me 10 to 20% more than what my original cost is. The cost of creating my product is going to become higher. And therefore the cost of selling my product needs to be higher. And if I increase the price of my item, the item that I'm selling, will the customer be able to buy it? Will they buy it? Yes or no? If it's an essential item, they will. If it's non-essential, they will not. And I know that they're not directly related to culinary stuff, but one of the things that we have in Visakhapatnam is that food prices are very high. Food prices in Vizag are very high. I mean, food prices in Hyderabad, Bangalore, and other places are much lower. Average. I'm not talking about the high end. High end, obviously, Hyderabad and Bangalore are very high. But I'm talking about the day-to-day middle class people. If you go to you can go, I believe, in Hyderabad and have a buffet for about 400, 450, 500 rupees. Or you can eat buffet. And the cheapest ones that I find over here are 550 plus taxes. And the number of items or the quality of the restaurant or anything else are much lower than it. Right? If you take apartments that are available, houses that you buy, I can buy an apartment I can't afford it, but Pujita sir can, so I can buy an apartment in a gated community in Hyderabad for maybe, let's say, 1 crore. Okay? 2.5 bedroom, 3 bedroom apartment, little outside, but I can buy that for 1 crore. In Visakhapatnam, You can't even dream of that unless you are going all the way to maybe Vijayanagar. The same 1 crore that I spend over here in Visakhapatnam, I'll probably get a small 2-bedroom, 800 SFT, 1000 SFT apartment in a building which has 1 lift and 1 generator. Forget all the gated community amenities and everything. Right? So, prices are going to increase and therefore your business plan needs to change. So that's something that you should be aware of. And creating a business plan of 60 pages, 100 pages and then keeping on modifying it does not make sense. So what we have is something called a business model canvas. There is something called a business model canvas that somebody has devised and said, here is a quick and efficient or effective way of quickly conveying to myself and to others who are interested in what I am doing, what my entire business is all about. And that is what is a business model canvas, and that is what we are going to talk about as a business model. Okay? The first one, and then the second part we will cover the feasibility of your idea. Whatever idea that you have and the feasibility related to that. So what we are going to cover are the fundamentals of business model, and then we talk about value proposition, we talk about market need assessment, competitive analysis, and feasibility check. Okay? So, this is what we are going to cover. But for me to go through this, I needed to help you understand. Sorry, the font is small in this one. I fixed it in the other slide. But by the end of this session, you will understand how to generate value and whether that value is actually feasible, whether that is something that is sustainable. I'll let you read first because anyway if I speak, you're going to look at that and read. So what does a business model do? It's actually going to help us answer 3 major questions, right? What do you serve, what value do you create, and how do you capture that value? So, one of those 3 happens to be who do you serve, right? What is your customer, who is your customer segment, who falls into your customer segment, and who has this problem most acutely. I am going to college and I have to go to my college by 9 o'clock, and my mother needs to wake up at 6 o'clock and prepare food and get my lunch box ready by 8 o'clock for me to be able to take that lunch with me to have my lunch at college at 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Right? Which is a very difficult thing. And in case my mother is not available and in case my mother is not feeling well, what do? I have to buy it from somewhere. Is there a better way of doing it? In Bombay, you have a better way. Dabbawalas come pick up the food and deliver it, so you don't have to worry about that. In Visakhapatnam, we don't have dabbawala. So, one option, create a dabbawala system over here. Another idea, go and have somebody prepare home food like food and have it delivered hot and on time without troubling parents to your location at an expense that is not as high, is not much higher than what you would do at home. And by the way, there are many people who are going to tell you, if you go talk to restaurants and other people in Visakhapatnam, many people are going to tell you that, look, prices of items have gone up, inflation has gone up, oil is expensive, dal is expensive, all of that is expensive, so therefore I have to raise their prices. Well, Hyderabad and Bangalore also are going through the same thing, probably a bigger problem for them perhaps, because it's more expensive for other things. But they're still able to deliver better value. Right? So, and the Hare Rama, Hare Krishna group, they have the kitchen, right? Akshay Patra. The Akshay Patra people will give food to you at 80 rupees per person. You go and order and say, I need something for 100 people, and they're going to say, okay, 800 rupees. We will come and deliver 3 items. You have to do your own serving and everything. And when the evening will come picked up, but we are happy to give you the food. How are they able to continue doing that? And by the way, they are not losing money, even though they get donations and other things, right? Otherwise, they'll end up losing a lot of money. So, who in this case could be something related, you having a problem with having proper lunch, not eating outside every day because it's going to cost a lot, and therefore solving the problem for them. And so, what is your value proposition? What exactly are you doing? What is your solution? What value are you adding to the customer that is going to tell them that, hey, this is something that we are going to change or improve for you, and therefore this is something that you should try. I'm going to give you the same quality of food as you would get at home. I'm going to make sure that it's hot. I'm going to give you the convenience of not having to struggle at home and rush and get your lunch boxes. And it will be delivered on time. And it will be nutritious. So all of these are things that I'm adding, and this is, I'm delivering it to your doorstep in your college, wherever you're going. So that's the value that I'm adding at the price that is at a price that is going to work out for you, but it will also work out for me. Right? How am I going to get paid for this? The food example is really easy, because I'm giving you something, you say it's food, and therefore you're going to say, yeah, that's great, I'll give you food. But when it comes to other things, which are services, one of the challenges that we have in India is that we don't value service. And that is why our services have gone down dramatically. We have horrible customer service. We have a very poor experience, the way that we get treated. You don't get proper, you go to a restaurant, people are putting the water bottle down, throwing the plate at you, putting food at you, throwing food at you and saying eat. Not the kind of treatment that you would get in a place where you would get proper customer service. Which is why, if you have any orders that you get, Amazon, Jio, anybody else, Tata, you can't talk to anybody. Swiggy, Zomato, you can't talk to anybody. They are going to say, chat with my chatbot. You are lucky that you at least have this chatbot to give you some kind of support. Right? But similar, for example, the same thing. Very interesting, by the way. With the same course, we were going to charge, I started off with 200 rupees and we said we'll charge 100 rupees. 8 sessions. 100 rupees plus tax, 180 rupees. So 8 sessions, 180 rupees to take the course. Right? How many of you have signed up? Here's the challenge. We charge the bare minimum, then 118 rupees. I can go eat 5 or 6, pani puri 5 or 6 times instead of this. Why do I need to learn about entrepreneurship? And the second challenge is, it's free. So 50 plus people signed up, I think 61 people signed up. And out of which, I basically have less than 15 people in the classroom. It's free. I haven't spent a single paisa from my pocket. Why do I need to attend? We do not see value in, in service. We have been working with startups for at least a decade, if not longer. We have also been running businesses for at least 2 decades. Deepak, Kiran, 3 decades. And today, if they say, okay, we will mentor you, you will go and ask them for mentorship. But you are not going to you are not willing to pay them any money for that mentorship. Because there is something called value and there is something called perceived value. And there are other psychological things that are there. I'm sitting in underuniversity and saying this, so don't quote me on this, but the degree that you're going to come out with, the piece of paper that you're going to come out with, is totally useless. If you come to me with your degree and say, here's a degree that I have, give me a job. As they say, I will not even clean my tongue with it. That paper is not even worth using for a tongue cleaner. Because I don't care about your degree. Not because you are not worthy of a job. I don't care about your degree because that degree has not equipped you with anything that is useful to me. You think that it's got some value and you say, here is my certificate, but I don't care about your certificate at all. The only reason we actually go and use the certificate is once we hire somebody, we take a copy of the certificate so that we have some proof that this person submitted this, and in the future if we find out it's a lie, we can take legal action. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I don't even care whether you are a 10th standard, 12th standard dropout, or a degree dropout, or a degree holder, or a PhD holder. I don't care. Because what I care about is, can you do the job that I give you? And what you are going to tell me is, teach me, and I will do it. Why will I waste my time teaching you? And even if I do teach you, you know what you're going to do? You're going to take that teaching that I have done and go find another job somewhere. It is going to pay you 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees more, and you're going to go to that job. So I'm basically training you, and you're using that to go somewhere else. Why would I teach you? Right? So, for you, though, you are paying lakhs of rupees for your degree. Right? Depending on which degree you are getting. You are paying lakhs of rupees for that degree. How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? How do you create value that you are willing to offer or you can offer that other people in your batch, in your college, in your degree program? How are you going to be different from everybody else sitting, for example, sitting in this room? You will be able to create that value by creating or developing a skill that you can use in that will help the companies that are taking care of that need that skill. Right? So now that he stepped out, I can talk about him. You know, of all the people that I have found, there are some people who graduated already that I know have added value, and they went and struggled and worked hard, and therefore they're in a place where I can trust them to deliver certain things. He is one of them who has basically made sure that he's developed certain skills, web development in a proper way, application development, and so on. And therefore, that is something that if I had to pick and choose, who will I take into my company? If I need somebody who can develop, who can learn new things, and who will develop and do things for me from a technology perspective, the first one would be him. Don't tell him that when he comes back. But, right? Why is that? I mean, I only met him for a few times so far. But during those meetings, I've noticed and I've seen what is it that he's doing and what he's delivering. And based on that, I'm able to say this is something that I can offer. He's offering that is of value to me. So I will give him a job. I will take him into my company. Right? So that is something that you need to look at. What is the logic? Why will people pay you? Why will people pay you? And how much will people pay you? So those are the three major things that you need to look at. And when you're looking at this value proposition, you need to, we didn't talk about jobs to be done, right? The jobs to be done framework, there is a functional job, there is a social job, and there is a perception, behavioral. Okay. So, what is the job to be done? What's the customer trying to do? What's the customer trying to achieve? If we go back to the example of lunch, I am hungry at lunchtime and I need to have lunch that I can eat a nutritious but fulfilling meal, tasty meal, then that is what I am going to do. That's the job that needs to be done. Okay? What's the pain? What's blocking them? If you go and look at, I have to take a box from home, that means somebody at home, maybe me, in case I am that, will have to wake up really early, cook, have everything ready, get everything clean, and pack it. Or have somebody at home do that. And by the time I open the box and eat it, it's most likely cold. So if I want to have a hot meal, then that's a pain, that's a frustration, that is something that is not possible for me. And so what do they want? What do your customers want? They want to make sure that they're getting a hot, nutritious, tasty meal. So from that customer profile, you would map to your idea. What value are you adding to your idea? Right? That product or service that you're offering, what exactly are you offering? What pain does it relieve? What is the pain and how does it address that pain? Right? and what does it, what are your gains from it? How does it deliver the desired outcome? Okay? So, for those of you who can't see, it's the bottom of the screen. The fit happens when your value map directly addresses what the customers care about the most. Okay? Any questions? Okay, let's take a break. If you have any questions, I'll be here to answer your questions. Otherwise, it's 11:36. We'll resume at 11:46.
కాల్ మాట్లాడుతుంటే పెట్టేస్తుంది
వాయిస్ నచ్చలేదు.
కాల్స్ చేసి అందరూ జూలై ఫస్ట్ వీక్ కావాలన్నారు.
యాక్చువల్లీ ఇక్కడ మనకి బందనేనా అసలు బాగా అదేంటి అయిపోయాక చేయలేదా వచ్చాక చేయలేదు